55 individuals were invited on a scientific excursion to the ocean floor investigating methane seeps and life found at the extraordinary depth and pressure of 5,000 meters. Bordering on the abyssal plain, ancient mud volcanoes are about 150 miles from Bridgetown, off the coast of Barbados, where the Atlantic and Caribbean plates meet. Since 1985, submersible explorations along continental margins have investigated highly productive deep ecosystems that occur in intensely difficult-to-reach geological settings. At 4,968 meters, we float over the seabed, where carbonate outcroppings of ridges introduce an eerie quality from several viewpoints. Moving over underwater topography is like flying over the earth, but a totally unique, watery environment instead. As we traveled over horizons never seen before by humans, the vision of life on our planet is expanded. The seascape is lunar at times, with exotic animals. We landed inside the Adelante mud volcano, which is 30 to 200,000 years old. It resembles a low dune by the ocean with wiggly grass, a strange glow. It's so hard to imagine how the large ship is only a speck compared to the depth we're viewing. There are large circular beds of clams with a speckling of clams in the distance on the black velvet horizon. Life here is astoundingly beautiful in its starkness. The manipulator arms perform a dance to pick up samples to be diagnosed. The artist on board actually requested these photographs as appealing visuals of life in these ocean depths. Aboard the Atlantis on the first leg of the adventure were 3 artists, 17 scientists, 24 ship's crew, and 11 Jason crew, organized by Dr. Cindy Lee Vandover from the Duke Marine Lab. Karen is an artist who has worked with Cindy for 2 decades as an illustrator of science. Jolene is an experimental videographer. I'm Mary Edna on my first voyage to the deep sea. Craig Young is principal investigator and brought 6 graduate students and 1 postdoc from the University of Oregon. The 274-foot Atlantis research vessel is specifically outfitted for science and exploration. Jason is a 2-body ROV. Manipulator arms collect samples of rock, sediment, and marine life. In the foreground is Medea, the shock absorber buffering Jason. A 6-mile tether, reinforced fiber optic cable, relays electrical power, control signals, data, and live video imagery. The vans are mobile labs outfitted for each adventure. Equipment is moved on board the ship for each cruise in a container managed by Woods Hole. The team is underway to the first site where Jason and Medea will be lowered. It takes about 2.5 hours to descend 3 miles to the sea floor. The container, called a van, which is Jason's control room, has a variety of screens and equipment in the black box. There are 3 lasers 10 centimeters apart and a digital still with strobes. The manipulators on the sides of Jason are mechanical arms that are very dexterous instruments because of the pilot's skill and give a human quality to the unit. Sitting between the pilot and navigator, I have a full view of the underwater platform. There are 37 monitors going all at once, each one different, but I like the high definition the best, where you see the triangular scoop lifting and loading clams. One screen looked like raining snow, a view from above, and another screen, a flurry of mud, a view of the back. In an intricate ballet, the scientists decide on what they want to examine, and the pilot operates the robotic arms. Everyone is quiet and respectful, but a nervous energy fills the dark van as anticipation mounts. For the first time in history, artists had 3 hours in the Jason van to observe this otherworldly scene. We were able to ask the pilot to stop before the instruments disturbed the muck to collect samples. A winch has been operating for hours. The Medea is first to be lifted. For the two-body system, the Medea unit serves as ballast for Jason. In the distance, tethered by cable, is the yellow top of the Jason. The ship's men carefully land and secure the equipment. A 10,000-pound crane lifts Jason. The scientist, artist, and all aboard are anxiously awaiting the safe arrival of this valuable ROV's treasures from the deep. Then there's a scurry of scientists with buckets of seawater. The specimens must be kept at sea bottom temperature to stay alive. Many on board will stay up all night to process the animals. The main lab is a hub of activity. French scientist Didier is an evolutionary ecologist and geneticist. Mark takes sections of clam gonads. Abby is helping Jens with his DNA studies. A large carbonate rock gets Cindy and Jamie's full attention. Laura is helping Jake, a geobiologist, cap a core sample in the refrigerator room. Karen studies the clams through a microscope and, after dissecting, begins to paint.
So these are the type of illustrations that I do. These are the deep sea clams. So this is the snail inside the shell and the way that its body works up into the whorls. This was really interesting because it had this spectacular green color. The moment of growth and artistic discovery always comes from my viewing the bottom of the ocean and seeing something down there that inspires me or that captures my imagination. Every time it's something new. This is one from the Jason van, just drawing the carbonate crusts. And then also from the samples coming up, I painted an image with the mud. So this is the actual mud from the bottom. And then I just painted the clams in.
Now this was my first successful watercolor. And Volcano A was the one that I found most exciting. My cohort, Karen, she taught me to take the sketchbook in and sketch live. Because that shows, at first I was very reticent. And then I got a little braver. And then I found I will paint this and I will paint that. The second one I did felt like suede, and it's a dome of carbonate.
The carbonate or possibly hydrate. So, but it's a dome on a harder substrate, and then just like you said, it has that soft. It has the mud over top of it, which gives it that. I thought you say suede.
Yeah,
suede. Look.
Laura gave me her maps of the deformations. Can you say what that is?
Land is permanently deformed, and so we're bordering on the abyssal plain, which is in the blue.
But it's 1.5 inches by 8 inches, and it will become a batik on silk, 3 feet by 16 feet. This was the second map, and what is this a map of?
So Adelante is the darker blue one, and so Mariana, I really loved how she just emphasized the mud volcanoes that we saw, and you can see the 2 primary ones, and the other mud volcanoes on the plain, and so I think that's lovely.
And these are the little larvae that are found. And they're so exciting, and each one has like an individual personality. They're
microscopically
cute.
Yeah, I have to watch all the footage every night after every night because I have to know what I missed that day so I could plan for tomorrow for another shooting. This is actually the second Jason dive, and because the first night I was kind of shocked how it works. Once the Jason got back up, it's just like boom, people get there and then take the samples, and then they just work all night long.
The ship seems to operate day and night, all the time.
So I see this one. So that's number 1.
Yep.
What's your number 2?
I think my number 2 is right down there.
Okay. This one almost looks like it has a little dimple in it.
So you say all seafloors aren't created equal. What is special about this one?
Oh, well, this one has so much relief
Yes.
in it. And so much nature.
Yes, it's got circles and it's got lines.
It's got circles and it's got circles and lines.
And valleys.
Valleys, channels,
You would
channels.
want to hike here.
Absolutely.
You
That's
could hike
exactly
the seafloor. This would be
right.
Where you're going on the next leg?
We hope so.
Atlantis was in a different location each day to study the mud volcanoes. Hovering near the surface like a spaceship underwater, Jason came up in the dark at 8 p.m. When Cindy is in the van as watch leader, she's actually telling the pilot and navigator where to land. Here's Laura, the USGS geologist who maps the floor of the ocean. The Jason crew uses this information to decide where to explore next. In the map room are the controls of the Mach Ness. The Mach Ness is a plankton collection device, a series of 9 nets, which are opened sequentially when the ship is underway. This specimen sampling has taken about 6 hours. Over 200 larvae were photographed in compound microscopes. Each larva is prepped to take back to the Oregon lab.
Craig is the director of the Marine Lab for the University of Oregon.
Craig calls the larvae the babies of the deep sea. These highly diverse and luxuriant marine organisms are recognizable in their larval form because of their specific shapes. They move by millions of tiny cilia and are at the mercy of the currents. Our leader, Cindy, organized a great team. Here's Laura in the map room, and Scott from Woods Hole in the Jason workroom. Cliff, an evolutionary biologist from Duke, and Didier and Sophie, a postdoc from Duke in the main lab.
Welcome to the Biolab, the main lab on the boat.
Our esteemed scientist, what was the high point on this particular cruise?
Highlight is reaching the seafloor and being able to find the species and being able to work as a team to be able to get all of the species.
Seeing it in context.
And totally different in context than it is when you see it in a book.
Now I'm mostly working on population to know how this kind of species has evolved for a million years in the deep sea and in this very hostile environment.
Communications electronics.
You took care of my phone calls to my husband.
Right.
My job is a data processor for what's coming off of Jason. Video, the sensor data, multi-beam sonar data, if there was any, pictures, all of those things need to be turned into data packages that the chief scientists have been able to concentrate pretty much on handling the software instead of worrying too much about the hardware.
The Jason crew is always checking the inner workings of the equipment.
We need to flip those right there.
So this is the clean new board?
Yes.
This is the telemetry chassis from Jason. It takes in fiber communications from the surface, and basically it's the main communications device. And this is one of the sublux boards that we're replacing on the vehicle right now because we lost some communications on one of our couple of our thrusters. And we just want to do preventative maintenance to make sure that it doesn't happen again.
Now the Atlantis is heading back to Barbados. A huge thank you goes out to the ship's crew and the foundations that make discovery possible. Woods Hole and the National Science Foundation, and all the people you don't see in this video work to make the excursion function smoothly. For me, the dedication and patience to do this kind of work is astounding. The first leg of this adventure is almost over, but the science and art will be brought home. The scientists have discovered exciting correlations and investigated many species. Evolution, ecology, genetics, and biogeography are among the fields of study, informed by specimens found on this trip. A pilot from Bridgetown boards the Atlantis to move us to port. Chief Scientist Cindy put us together as a team, artists and scientists, knowing we could share our moments of discovery and connect to a broader audience through our collaboration. Scientist and artist are not so far apart. Both get excited with new experiences, solving problems, and questioning approaches.
How long have you been a pilot?
About 2 years.
2 years, and how long a navigator?
About 9 years.
9 years. Well, you're a big cheese in the Jason crew, I'd say.
Tito is really the mastermind of the Jason crew, always elusive to my camera. In the orange shirt, he stands on deck. He and Cindy are both sleuths of the unknown deep oceans that cover most of the planet, where sunlight does not penetrate. With Cindy's guidance and continued exploration, others will come to value the deep sea and its organisms through science and art.